Hi, I'm Schmidt. I've been studying residential energy efficiency for quite a while, and I'm involved in running Energy Upgrade Mountain View, which is actually a really innovative program for the city of Mountain View. It's free to all residents, and we're going to talk about what it does and what the benefits are. So why would you want to save energy? There's a bunch of different reasons. Clearly, you can reduce your PG&E bills if you use less energy. You can also reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions come from fossil fuels, and most of our energy comes from fossil fuels. Reduce your energy, reduce your emissions, reduce our impact on foreign oil, which is a good thing with all the stuff going on in politics around the world. And then if we use less energy, then the utilities don't have to build as many new power plants. And power plants are incredibly expensive, so it really helps our overall society if we save energy. So most people don't really have a good idea of where energy goes inside a house. And that's because we're not given much information about it. All we get is a bill once a month, and it tells you your total kilowatt hours of electricity and total therms of natural gas. There is a lot of information, though a lot of research that's been done on where energy goes in a typical household. And this information comes from the DOE, the Department of Energy. And this is their idea of what goes on inside of a typical house. So there's a number of different categories. So heating and cooling, in general, make up a really big portion of energy use in a house. Then there's things like the water heating for your showers or for your hot water use, all the appliances you use around the house, lighting, electronics, etc. So what I've done here is I've taken these different categories and lumped them into three categories. And these are the three main categories that make the most sense in terms of what actions you can take. So we can lump heating and cooling together into HVAC. It stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. The things you would do to reduce your energy in that area are all kind of the same in that category. Then you've got stuff you can do to reduce your energy for water heating. And then there's all this other stuff. So when you take the DOE's percentages and lump them together into these three groups, you get these numbers: 46%, 14%, and 40%. Now this is what the DOE says, and this is for all American homes. Alaska, Hawaii, Texas, you name it. Homes are all different. You got apartments, you got townhouses, you got big houses, you got small houses. They're all different. Not only are the sizes and shapes different, but they're in different locations, right? So again, we got Hawaii, we got Alaska. Now, if you put a house in a different location, clearly you're going to have different requirements for heating and cooling. Now, when you do that, you change what's called the degree days. It's kind of a cool unit that people in the industry have put together to allow you to compare the energy use of a home in Austin, Texas, with a home in Sacramento or with New York City. So the degree days is a measure of the local climate in terms of how much heating you need to do to keep people comfortable and how much cooling you need to do in the summertime to keep people comfortable. And that's called degree days. And depending on where you are, you have different numbers of degree days. Now for the US average, that chart I showed you before, the average is about 6,700 degree days. You come to California and you have a lot fewer degree days, which means this green section, which has to do with heating and cooling, gets much smaller as a percentage of your energy use. So even from the US, this was 46% of your home energy going to heating and cooling. Now we're down to 23%. Now that's all of California. That includes the houses in Tahoe. That includes the houses in Bakersfield. When we get to Mountain View, we're even less. We have 3,400 degree days here in a typical year. So the percentage of our energy that's going to heating and cooling is much smaller. Might not be as important to focus on heating and cooling here as it is in Houston. The other thing that happens is, depending on who you talk to, you'll get different numbers. Lots and lots of people in the industry will say, house uses about 50% of its energy in heating and cooling. I went to a presentation a couple of years ago where a local contractor was saying 60%. 60% of your energy goes to heating and cooling. Maybe they came from Texas, I don't know, but that's not really true around here. What we've been doing is local research to try and find what the actual numbers are in our area. And one of the surprising things we found is that not only is this a small number, but this other stuff is even bigger than most other parts of the country. And that's the other stuff we have. That's the electronics. That's all the things that are plugged in around our house. So going through this list again, not only are there different categories for where the energy goes, but there's two different types of energy that we use in our homes. Most homes have both electricity and natural gas. Now, I don't know if you knew, but electricity costs about 10 times as much per unit of energy as natural gas. Natural gas is really cheap. So you can get, if you want to boil a cup of water, and you can do that with electricity, or you can do that with natural gas, you want to try and do it with natural gas because it's like 10 times cheaper. The rate varies because electricity rates vary a lot depending on how much you use. PG&E has this tiered rate structure. The more you use, the more you pay. But in general, you want to use natural gas if you have a choice. So in addition to the heating and cooling, your heating is almost always natural gas. Your furnaces is natural gas. The fans that move your air around are electric. The air conditioning is always electric. Water heating is usually natural gas around here. Does anybody here have an electric water heater? It's pretty rare just because electricity is so much more expensive. Refrigeration is electric, lighting is electric, and your plug loads are mostly electric. So there's another category that's fairly new, and that's this concept of base loads. And that it applies to all these other areas. There's a lot of stuff in our houses these days that are drawing energy even when we're not using it. And that's a new thing, I mean relatively new. 30 or 40 years ago, there just weren't that many things in your house that were plugged in and operating. I mean, people had maybe one TV, they had one fridge, they didn't have a game console or 3 game consoles or a couple of computers. So this has really grown recently, and it's become a big deal. And this is the types of stuff that I'm sure we all have in our houses. It's everything from the rechargeable toothbrush, space heater. This is an instant hot water heater. Does anybody have one of those? They use lots and lots of energy. Heated towel rack, game console, another computer, an aquarium, maybe a spa, a wine cooler. This is a baby wipe heater. You guys don't have one?
You can get one now.
Anyway, there's lots and lots of this stuff, and the kind of the new concept is we can all imagine driving our car. We park the car in the garage. We go to our house. Well, we shut the car off. We don't leave the car idling in the garage. That would be stupid. It would be unhealthy, and it would waste a ton of gas. Your homes are idle for right now. Even if no one's there, your home is using a bunch of energy. And that's kind of a new concept. And most of it is pure waste. It's really not doing anyone any good. This shouldn't be new news. There's this great guy, one of my mentors, this guy named Art Rosenfeld. And he was a commissioner for the California Energy Commission for many, many years. He's about 85 years old now. And he was instrumental in improving the efficiency of refrigerators. You're probably not going to be able to read this very well, but this is a curve that shows how much energy an average refrigerator consumed. And this is going back to 1947. Here we are in 71, it peaked around 1973 or so. And this was showing that an average refrigerator in California in 1973 used about 1,800 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. To put that in perspective, the average California home uses about 6,000 kilowatt hours per year. So one fridge was taking up a third of the electricity used in a house. Now this was getting really bad. So Art Rosenfeld and a number of other smart people said, we're going to put regulations in place that prevented people from selling refrigerators that weren't of a certain level of efficiency. And they did this over a period of years. They introduced new standards and just started driving down the energy used by refrigerators. And the manufacturers responded. At first they said, no, we can't possibly make a refrigerator that's that efficient. But they did. And as a result, refrigerators worldwide today are much more efficient. These refrigerators that you buy today use 400 kilowatt hours per year. And they're bigger and they're cheaper. So it's a real success story. So Art Rosenfeld was one of the key people behind this. And he did this slide like 10 years ago. And what he said okay, we did a great job with those refrigerators. But I'm getting a little bit worried about this purple line. This is the estimated standby power of a house. And he says, I don't really know, but I think it's getting pretty bad. So this was 2003. Here's a new version of the slide he did in 2008. Same general slide, but he says, this is starting to get pretty bad. I think the standby loads in houses are now as bad as the refrigerators used to be back in the 1970s. So, turns out it's worse. We've been running this program down in Mountain View since last April, or last May. And we've got about 250 homes that have signed up. As part of the process, we do an analysis using smart meter data of your home's energy use. And one of the things we do is calculate your standby load for your house. And the average standby load in a Mountain View home is around 250 watts. That's on all the time. That's 2.5 big light bulbs, those old incandescent light bulbs. And that amounts to about 2,200 kilowatt hours per year. Now that's the average. The range is huge. It can be as low as maybe 50 watts, which is great, but it can be as high as 1,000 watts. And most people don't have any sense of this. It's really hard to know.